Should be recording now. Yep. So got this totally blank app. I've cleared out some of the content about the spirally atom thing, React. But what we want to build today is a YouTube example app. Basically a YouTube app where you can, it looks like this. This is a basic layout. You have a search bar. You can be able to search YouTube videos, show the videos on the right side, and also be able to watch any video that you search for, right? Go through them. We're building YouTube through YouTube. Thanks, YouTube. So where do you want to start? Well, right here, actually. So usually the best way to start is get a rough idea of what your app wants to look like. We really don't know yet. We're going to have to take a look at the data and see what we can work with, but this is a good place to sort of map out our components like we've done before. So what kind of components do you think we're going to need for this sort of app looking at this right now? Search bar.
Page container.
A big page container, yeah, the main thing, yep.
Like a video list.
Yep, video list.
Display video.
Yeah, video item, display video, yeah. That. So really looks like we have one big container and that has three components inside. Search, the detail, and then the list. So I have my blank app here. It's got nothing in it. And I'm on my app level. So we can go ahead and just sort of create some of that stuff really quickly and get a rough idea of what we're looking at. So I'm going to go ahead and say the video search, video, we'll call it detail, and video list. We'll go ahead and create those files real fast, just so we have something to render on the page. Oh no, I spelled that wrong. Right, cool. So I've got those things, I can go ahead and import them in. And actually, we do want to have I'll just make an extra component for the container of everything. I'm going to move these into there. So video container, video app container. It does kind of like add an extra layer. So yeah, there's arguments for both. If you're just making a very simple app, put it in an app, it's fine. The one thing is, like, if I wanted to make something that I might want to extract out later, it's kind of nice to have it one layer down because I just can pull it and put it into anything else and inside of an app, basically. So let me see, import React from React. This is my top container. I'm guessing I'm going to need some state in here, so I'm going to go ahead and just make a class, and I'll do the component thing. Cool, and I'm going to import these things in. I'll go back and nab these guys here. And I'll put this in a div. Cool. There's nothing in these containers, so let's just quickly make something so we can actually see it. Import React from React. Now these are all one layer down. They're all kind of just showing things, or they're going to be interacting with the app level, so we can probably make them all just functional components to start. They're going to be just doing some very basic stuff, displaying content, interacting with a search bar, that kind of thing. So say const video search. We're going to have some kind of props. We know that. And I'm actually, just so I can have something to look at, I'm going to take this and I'm going to stick it into each of these. Video, hey, where'd my search go? Oh, there it is. This is video detail. Yes, you're right, thank you. Cool. So, and I'm going to export default, video detail. Cool. So that's my basic video detail. I'll go ahead and do the same thing for video search. And the same thing for my video list, just so we have content. And I want to import in. I've already imported in my video app container. This definitely just didn't take anything in because there's nothing happening on my app level anymore. So cool, that's good to go. If I refresh this, export default is missing from video app container. Cool. 3 components, they're all showing the same thing. All right. So it doesn't look exactly like that yet, but we'll get there. At least we have some framework to work with now. So let's see, what do we want to start with first? Well, before you can really list out a bunch of the content, we really need to know what data we're working with. Otherwise, and that's actually going to shape what we're going to display, because we could go ahead and be like, we're going to show this and this and this, and then find out our API doesn't actually give us that content. So we need to go and take a look at that first. I happen to have a few things prepared. So videos from YouTube are using API. This is the basic search. So I'm going to paste this in. Looks something like this. I have a URL from my Google APIs to YouTube. It's a search, and it takes 2 arguments in, my API key, which I have currently stored away in my keys.js, and also a search term to actually search. So where do you think this would be? This is going to be my fetch request. Where would that go? What's the best place for this to be? Yeah, let's start there. That's a great start, because we want to have things render. The first thing we want to do is when we go to a page, we want to see content, right? So component did that. I'll go ahead and say fetch. I want to return the other response, convert it to JSON, and for now, let's just console log this. Have you ever seen this structure of console log? Cool. Cool. So we got a component amount. Give it some.
Yeah, that too. You're going to need to import your keys.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yes, and I think I actually have it. Yeah, I just have to pull it down from here. Yeah. This is something you'll see, especially if you're storing API keys. I won't go into too much detail about how to do it, but you don't want to be putting it straight on your repo, because it'll push up to GitHub. And there actually are bots that people build for GitHub that just scrape through it and steal your API keys. And apparently there are stories people putting like either Amazon private key on there, and then within 10 minutes they have like purchases being made in their name. So it's important. In this case, like no one's going to do a lot of harm getting a YouTube key, but still, it's good practice to keep it separate. We can actually ignore this so we don't push it up to our repos. All right, cool. So we have our API key being imported in. It's on this const. We need a search term. So let's do, what kind of search term are we going to look for? Any cats? Cats. All right, cool. Cool, so now I've got my component amount. I have no state yet, but that's okay. It should still work just fine. When I refresh the page, I should see something logging into my console. So I'm going to refresh. Oh, that's not what I'm going to do. Refresh. I got an object back. Cool. So it's got 5 items, a bunch of stuff. I have no idea what this is yet. Let's see if we can find any details on what these actually look like. Cats are amazing creatures because they make us laugh out all the time. Great. So it looks like I've got what I want. Yeah, so cool. So I've got the data, and now I can start working with this. I can see what I have to work with. we're ultimately going to be using this video ID to embed our data. This is actually what we stick into our URL and we render it into an embedded video. The rest of it, most of this is not going to be very useful. I don't think that e-tag we're ever going to need or anything like this. But maybe you want to have some stuff like the description, for instance, the channel title. We want to have a nice list of details. We want to get some of this stuff out of here, right? Cool. So now that we have the data, what do we do? What do we do with it? Yeah. I'm going to do this type of state just because we don't really need a constructor. We're not doing anything too fancy with setting up. And I can go ahead and say something like videos. Now, videos is coming in. It's actually within items. There's 5 videos coming in. So it's going to be an array. So we can go ahead and start that with a blank array. What else do we want to put in here in theory? What search term? Yeah, we're going to have to search. We're going to have to capture a search term. And just so we actually render at all times initially, I'm going to put it in catch just to default. Basically, that way when we refresh the page, we'll see something come up every time. And then what else? What we have? Yeah, exactly. Then we need to actually be able to tell it which video we're looking at. So do a selected video, which right now we can just leave it as blank for the moment. Cool. So that's really all we need for state. In order to set state, what's going to go here? Yep. And it's going to be part of an arrow function, so I'm going to have to do something like my JSON that I got back, which is all this data on over here. This.setState, we will do something like videos. Oh yeah, I got curly. Videos. It's going to be JSON.items. Just to make sure this is working, I want to go ahead and test basically every time we do something. I want to just make sure that we're doing what we think we're doing. Cool. So you can see on initial render, videos is empty. Search term is cats. On the re-render, once the fetch is complete, I have my 5 videos. So cool, we're getting there. If I want to hook this up to my search term, I can probably do something like this.state.search term. That way, this should still do the same thing. Good, cool. So, got our videos loading up. We know what details we're going to work with. Where should we start? Search? Yeah, that makes sense. We kind of already have the setup. We just need to change this to whatever we put it, and we'll get data back. Then we can build out our visuals later. Cool, so let's go into our search. I can get rid of this. So a search is going to be usually just a very simple input, type text. And if it's going to be a controlled search, what are the 2 things we need here? Value. Yeah, and on change. So since this is just a very basic functional component, we're going to be passing these down from our top. That makes sense too, that's where our fetch is. So we'll say the value is props.search term, yeah. And the on change will be like something like handle change, props.handle change. So we need to make sure to pass those 2 down. Going back down here, we can go ahead and say search term is equal to this.state.search term, and handle change is this.handle change. So we have to go ahead and we'll go ahead and define that real quickly. Handle change. So on change of my search, I want to type a letter. I want it to fire up and capture that letter in the event. So I'll say something like this.setState of search term to be event.capture target value. Now I haven't done the handle I haven't done the handle change totally. Actually, this works. Let me see if this works. Now if I type something here, search term is cats. Now it's cat, dog. Cool. Our search is controlled now. So we have data going down from our app to our input and coming back up to our state. Cool. We're still not searching things though yet. So now that we have this value, how do we tie it into this fetch? What's going to happen here? If I try to search something, what's the problem with the way it's set up right now?
Oh, it only updates the videos immediately after the first render. It doesn't update when the state updates.
Yeah, exactly. So this is only going to fire that first time. What do you think we could do to fix this? What's up? I think it's just pull it out. Yeah, we're going to be calling it in different. We're going to call it immediately when we render the page, and also whenever we search. So we'll just take this out and put it in its own function. So like a video search. Oh yeah, thank you. And I will make it an arrow function. Cool. So on video search, it just does this thing. We can test this out, make sure it works by just simply calling this dot video search. So whenever I component did mount, we should fire this off. We should still see cats loading up, and cats is loading up. Cool. Now we still have to call it from somewhere, right? We could call it here. And we'll talk, if we have time, we'll talk a little bit more about something called debounce. So you can actually, right now on handle change, every time I type a key, I'm updating my state. If I put video search here, this will work, and it will fire a request every single time I hit a key, which is fine in some cases, but in an API that we don't actually belong to us, this might actually cause problems. There are a lot of APIs that have a restriction of how many things you can search in a certain amount of time, or like a certain amount of hits per day. So you really wouldn't want to build in like something like this unless you had something like debounce. And what debounce is actually sets up a buffer where every time you type a key, it starts a timer. And if you type any of the keys within a certain amount of time, it won't fire until that timer ends. So basically, it's like I only want to search every second instead of every time I hit a key. That's the idea. But we won't do that for now. Let's just do something like a handle submit. So on submit, I should just call my video search, which should have my updated state and should fire off. I'm going to have to pass this down. And in my search bar, put something like, put a button. And this button takes in a on click props.handle submit. So on click of this button, I should be able to fire off my search. So there's my initial render. If I look for dogs, it's now loaded up in my search term, and if I search, cool, what's the video in here? I've got videos, and I've got funny dog compilations. Great. Cool. So that's working. I've got my submit working, I've got my handle change. My entire search is up and running. Any questions about search and how this is working? Yeah.
You didn't need to print out default because it wasn't a form, it's just a button.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. If I put this in a form, like tags, it would be built in. It's part of HTML's built-in structure. Yeah.
Were you? It looked like you were still fetching up or video searching based on.
These ones here, all these.
That's just the search term changing, not that the videos are changing.
Yeah, this one should be dogs, but if I go up here, it should still be cats. Snippet. Yeah, cats are amazing creatures. Yeah, so it's just logging every time I change my state right now. I feel pretty good about that, so I'm actually going to go ahead and do something like, I don't need to log my whole state. Now my state's kind of getting bigger. It's a little messy. I'll go and say something like just videos. I just want to see whenever what my videos are at all times. Cool. And search. And this is working. Good. Okay, cool. Dogs. All right. So we got our search working. What should we do next?
Video.
Yeah, we have our video list. We might as well just build it out. Our last thing will be actually building out like the display. That makes sense. Cool. So we have our 5 videos every time. We can go ahead and just pass these right back down. So videos is going to be this.state.videos. And in our video list, we're going to have props.videos available here now. So let's see. How do I want to do this? We have an array of videos. How do I want to list them out? Programmatically, instead of manually.
Each one a new React class or React
Sure.
thing.
The component?
Video summary or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, video item.
Video item.
Yeah, I think that.
Or to be specific, it's always good to be very specific and say video list item. Like it's an item in the list. Cool. And what should probably be in this video item? Let's take a look at our data. So we got, in our snippet we have a description, we've got a title, thumbnails, great, cool. So we have a good amount of stuff here. So could use like a card, like a materialized card. We can probably build this out pretty quickly, just straightforward, and do something like, let's do an image, or actually, is it an image or is it a? It's a URL. Oh, it's JPEG. Okay, cool. Interesting. All right. So we'll say like image. It's going to be let's see. If I'm going to call this video. Actually, I'm going to take a step back. Before I fill this out, I want to actually pass it data so I can work with it and kind of have a little more tangible structure here. So now that I've got my video list item imported in, how do I want to call this inside of my video list? If I want to have an array of things, right? Yeah, map. So we can set up a function, render video list. And this is going to take in my props.videos.map for each video. I'm actually going to I'm just going to do it all in one line. Video list item. Because arrow functions implicitly return, I can just do this all nice and clean like this. And I'll pass in video is video. Then in order to call this is going to return, actually it's not going to return this yet. I need to do this as well. So this is actually also all on one line, but it still looks like it's 2, but it's not wrapping. So this will return the mapped list of videos and these cards. For now, I'll just say like something to see there. If I want to call this in, Let's call this dot render video
Should
list.
be a constant since this is functional.
Ah, yes, you're right. Thank you.
And it doesn't need to be this time.
Yeah. Thank you. So that, let's see if this works. Oh, I'm missing my export default. Always missing my export default. Cool. Hey, 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 hey. Awesome. So it's working. All right, now we can actually work on with some of this data. So we go into our video list item. I'm just gonna console log video for the minute so I can kind of see what we're doing. So these are our videos listed out. Each video then now has .snippet, which is gonna have .thumbnails and give us our URLs in there, .medium.url. So if we wanted to render out an image first, it would be something like video .snippet medium. Thank you. And does not like. Huh? Oh, thank you. Yes. It's thumbnails is where okay, after a snippet. Cool. Look at those cats. Awesome. Those are kind of big. Let's take a look and see. Yeah, small. This is called small, right? No, it's called. Oh. Oh, but it is smaller. Look, that's cool. Cool. So we'll call it default. And perfect. Look at that. Look at that cat. All right, cool. What else are we going to do in here? How do we want to design this? If you look at what we drew out originally, our original plan, that thumbnail makes sense to be on the left here, and then we'll have some content on the right. So I'm going to go ahead and just quickly use some gridding so I can kind of separate these two out fast. So styles, we'll say it's a display as a grid, and the grid template columns we'll just say is one frame, one frame. So now if I have something over here, no, actually inline styling it's always commas. Yeah, it's also always camel case. It's a little bit different in mine. But this should split this up to half and half. So the first child of this div will now be this first fraction. The second half will be this second fraction. So this should be an even divide. And we might be able to see it. Oh, hey, it actually worked. Cool, it just filled the screen. All right, cool. So let's build out some more here. So we probably want title and description as a very base level thing. So let's we can add this right here. So we'll do a title div and a description div. I'm going to go ahead and do this one more time because I actually kind of want them to stack on top of each other in a nice way. I'll put this here. And instead of templates columns, I'm going to say rows. So now it'll be inside of this div split half and half on top of each other. Just to make sure this is working. Cool. Right on top of each other. Cool, so let's go and replace this with actual data. Our title probably makes sense to be on top, so we can go ahead and say something like video.snippet.title. And then for the bottom, we want the description. So title and description. Okay, it's a little bit crazy, but it's working. You might have to. Interesting stuff.
We should
Okay.
truncate the description.
Yeah, I could truncate it. I could. I might just do something like this: overflow, scroll. It actually didn't help. Okay. I'm gonna try it here. Nope, that didn't help either. Interesting.
Maybe none of them are actually.
Yeah, you might be right. It's kind of hard to tell at this point.
Why don't we make the title like H1 or like a different
That's a good call. Yeah.
something?
Do it, H3. You don't want it super big, but okay. So they are going a little bit long. We'll clean them up in a little bit. The content's there. We can do some styling later. So we've got our displays mostly working. I am going to just do one thing, which is I'm going to do one more of these grids. And what I'll do is, in my list item, I'm going to split up so that my detail, my search items are half and half on the page again. Cool. So now I actually have, it's actually a little odd, but we'll take a look at this later. Video detail, and I'm going to do one more. Sorry, please forgive me. I like grids a lot. So we'll do like a 10%, so that this way I have a grid on my outer layer, so that way my search is 10%, and this next div, which contains my other two components, is the rest of it. So if I go back, still not doing it, but we'll see what happens. It might clean up itself. All right, cool. So we have a video list. It's rendering our content. How do we select a video? Yeah. How do you do that?
On click.
Okay, cool. Where would that go?
That would go on the video list item.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Like right here. Yeah. On click this dot select video. Or actually, it's going to be not this, right? It's going to be props. So since I've already extracted this out, I'm going to go ahead and just call this select video up here because I know that's going to be part of my props. And then in my video list item, I need to pass in that thing. So like select video, it's going to be select video, props that select video this time, yep. Cool, which means I need to also pass it down to video list. So up here, I can say select video is equal to this dot select video. Cool, now I have to define that. Select video. Now, I'm going to console log this. I'm not actually sure what I'm going to get back when I click on these videos. So let's take a look and see. I click on this. I'm hitting my debugger, which is great, which means my props are being passed down properly. So I know that. But what is my event? My event is this thing. It doesn't really tell me anything about what I'm actually clicking on. Well, it tells me where my mouse was. And there's all kinds of data here, but it's not really what I need. What I need to know is I selected on this first cat's video, or this second cat's video, right? So how do you think I can build that into this functionality? I have my video. If I go to my video list, I'm passing in all my data from every video right here. Somehow I need to pass in which one I've selected. Oh yeah, so this one doesn't have props because I've destructured the object. I could go ahead and say, just for clarity, go back and do this. So they both work. The thing is that you can actually, if you're receiving an object as an argument, this props has two keys in it, video and select video as my two keys. I can just destructure it and say, I want just those two things directly. It's a sort of a way to clean up your code a little bit. Since I have props being listed here all the time, if you take all that out, it does actually shorten your code and makes it a little cleaner, easier to read. But this works fine. We'll keep it like this, just for clarity. Let's make sure that works. Cool, it's still working. Okay. So we have a click video, we have on-click select video, but we don't know what video we're in. How do we tell it, this function, what video we're actually selecting? We could do that. Keys, yeah, we could do keys. What would the keys be, though?
When you type event.target with the debugger, what is it giving you? Like, is it giving you the HTML element?
It is giving me, yeah, it is giving me that, but it's actually giving me the image in this case, which is because it's a child of the div that I'm clicking. So it's just telling me you're clicking on this, but I could click on something else. If I click on this, it'll tell me I clicked on an H3 tag because I clicked on the title. But then I want them all to be firing the same way, right? So I guess the question is really that, what do we want to get out of this? So when we click on a video, we want to be able to display this video in my detail. In order to display the video, we actually need this. This is actually what we're going to need because this is what we're going to use to embed our video. So what we could do is actually, since we're looping through all this stuff, we can actually capture this in our component for video list item. And when it's clicked, let's go back over here. When we click on this, we want to actually send back this key, which we can then use to render that content. So what we'll do is, just to make sure this is working, I want us to do .id and video ID. So now, if I refresh this, I now am actually just console logging just that ID, which I already have in my component. So if I wanted to be telling the YouTube or my detail component to use this data, how do I get that into here? Yeah. So if I did something like this will now pass up my data. What's the problem right now with this?
Is it also needs to take in the event?
No.
It's getting called.
It's being called. Yeah. If you have a function inside these curlies with a parenthesis at the end, it's being interpreted as a function to fire immediately. Then you have an idea of how we can solve that?
Oh, I was going to suggest changing the component to a class, and that way you can just send the item itself. You just call the function on the item itself using.
Oh, the whole thing.
Yeah.
That would work. Yeah, there's a simpler way though. Oh.
Write a function, like on-click is a call function within this function.
We could do that. We could write a function up here that's like a handle click. Well, we don't need to do much apply anymore because we have arrow functions. So there's really two ways. We could do it this way where we actually define a function that all it does is call this inside of it and then call that function here. This will work because it's like, this won't fire immediately, but once it's actually clicked, it'll fire this function which has this definition inside which will fire once that's fired and it will go off and fire and work. There's a shorter way, which in this case, since I'm not doing too much logic in here, I could just do the same thing, but with an anonymous function. So I can do something like this. So I'm actually passing in this case, on click, I'm passing in the definition of an arrow function. I'm not firing it. But inside the arrow function is this other function that's going to fire once it's called. So this is a nice, like, just very shorthand way of handling this. Does that make sense to everybody? Cool. So now, what we should see is on click. I should still have the debugger there. Now my event is actually the video ID. Cool. I will go back. It's not really an event anymore. Just so I don't confuse myself, I'm going to say like video ID. Cool. So, what do we do from here? Yeah. Now, selected video, I'm not sure if you've ever seen this structure either, but there's a shorthand in JavaScript where I can do this. Has anyone seen this before, the structure? I could actually write this out as selected video is pointed to whatever I got in as an argument, and this works fine. If you provide an argument, like in this case I have a variable, selected video, and I passed it into my set state as an object, it interprets it within this object as the key and the value of that object, of that key. So it basically will actually create, it'll look for this key, and if it's there, it'll assign it, or if it's not there, it'll create it. So this actually works. And I can test this. Yeah, it makes it a lot shorter. Yeah. This becomes really, really handy when you're passing like a whole bunch of keys down, because you can just be like ID, name, username, and if you're like passing an object with those values in it, it'll just assign it to those keys. If you're like setting a state, it'll just do it for you.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. You can't. Yeah, it'll try to actually add a key if it doesn't find that key. So just to make sure this is working, I've changed my console log to say this.state.selected video. So now I should start with an empty string, and on click, oh yeah, nothing there. I click on this. It did. It re-rendered, so it console logged everything else. So I'm going to take that one out so we can actually see if this is working. Cool. One more time. If I click on this, that's the video ID. If I click on this one, that's the video ID for this one. Cool? Yeah. All right. So we've got our video ID. What else do we want to do? We have the detail, right? So once we select the video, we want to be able to pass in that data, that key, a video ID, into my video detail. So we'll say like selected video is equal to this.state.selected video, id video. I'm going to go ahead and just take this out because it's going to start confusing me in a second. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and use an iframe, which is it's a built-in HTML tag, which lets you actually stick in a URL for a video, and it will render out that video for you, which will display on the page. So say iframe, just like an image, it takes a source. And in this case, the way this is actually going to work is the way it actually wants it to be is it's going to actually want the URL to be something like this. And I've written this out because I forgot already, so I made sure to write this down. Embed, and then props.video ID. Or selected video, sorry. So, yes, it does. So I can actually, should be able to just console log this for a second. Now if I select on a video, I've console logged this. What happens if I go to this? It's embedded in a video, and there's the cat. Okay. Cool. So that URL is working. So what I can actually do is something like iframe, source is this. What's going to happen here, actually, this is a good quiz on JSX. What's the problem with this structure that I have right now? This is not going to work.
Oh, you need to put brackets around
Yeah.
that.
Why do you need to put brackets around this?
Because it can't, HTML can't string interpolate.
Yes. This JSX is going to try to be smart and say, oh, it's an iframe, great. Here's the source, oh great, string, 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 string. Here's some JavaScript. And try to interpret that as JavaScript, because it knows curlies means it's actually escaping JSX and trying to run pure JavaScript. So by wrapping it in curlies, you're telling it, interpret this whole thing as JavaScript, which is why I can then read, oh, these are backticks, which means that this is interpolated in, and that will actually render out the content. So no errors, cool. And something's already loaded, there's probably, oh yeah, there's nothing in there because there's no default value. But if I click on cats are so funny, all right. And if I search dogs, search. Can't expand it. Oh, it's unavailable, that's terrible. I want to watch these dogs. Cool. Okay, we have a very ugly website, but we're getting there. Hmm? Oh, thank you, thank you. I'm not sure where this rogue thing is. Let me go ahead and get that out of there. Oh, there it is. Yep. Cool. So, although it's not looking that great, that's it, right? That's like essentially it. We have a few more things we want to do. It would probably be a good idea to provide details here, right? Like that makes sense, which actually causes a problem in our structure. Yeah. So actually, the Siobhan's idea was actually probably the best one because although my video is being passed, I don't have any details. So I need to actually take that whole object and pass it up, right? So we can do some quite quick edits to here. We don't need to have this as a class component, but what we do want to do is, right now I have props as video, and I also have it as select video. These are my two props inside of my video list item, my particular individual item. Instead of passing the ID, what if I just pass video? That way I'm actually sending the whole object that I received as a prop back up to the top. I need to change this a little bit. This is fine. This will stay as selected video, so that'll become the entire object. It'll be passed down as the entire object. I need to change this to actually have some more detail in it. So this is not going to work because it's probably going to crash. Oh, it didn't even crash. Wow. So what happens? My selected video is empty, and then it's crashing. Okay, cool. Why is it not logging props? Huh? Oh, yeah. Thank you. Cool, I got some weird problems going on, but there it is, selected video. It's got all my data on it. Cool. All right, so props, if I want to actually display the video ID, a selected video here, it's actually going to be something like props.selectedVideo.id.videoID. So props dot, I'm going to write it up here for a second, .id.videoID. I might just make this a const just so it's a little easier on my URL here. I can read it a little better if I just call this video ID and I make it equal to this prop. Now I should be able to just call video ID directly into here. And if this is working, then we're in good shape. It's not working. What happened? What is not like? Cannot read video ID of undefined.
Oh, it's because we start off with a string.
So how do we fix that?
You could just put in the keys you need for, you could like the default value could be an object. So it doesn't crack.
Can you explain that a little more? What do you
What I
mean?
mean being selected video pointing to an object.
Yeah.
That has like the key of ID, which has the key of video ID, and points to the string. And that way, it just,
Yeah.
that's the bare minimum you need so it doesn't crash.
Yeah, does everyone understand what's happening here? By providing it this empty structure of an object, my props and my children down below will look for this and say, oh, well, it's an empty string, so it's fine. If I provide it with this string, it doesn't find any of those keys and it crashes before it can even look for anything. So this will work. It'll still render nothing initially, but if I click on something, cats will make you laugh. All right, yeah, that works. Now there's a few more things kind of here that, just for cleaning up. There's one, which is that whenever I refresh this page, I've got an empty screen here. What if I wanted to load up a video? Like say if I search one, I probably want to see the first thing come up. That might be a good user experience to be able to search a thing and have it appear immediately, right? So what can I do in my video search? I've got my videos, I set my videos. What if I wanted to set the selected video to the first thing on my list?
Selected video.
Oh no.
We just set selected video equal to JSON.items first index.
Yeah. So now this will still let me render the page because initially before the fetch is there, I still don't have anything, right? So it will prevent it from crashing, but then immediately when I get my fetch request back, I should see that first video come out. I like cats, they're fine, but let's do like dolphins. Cool. So now I'm loading my first video, which is the same one here. And the Patriots versus the Dolphins comes up. Aww. Okay. Cool. All right. Now we have to add in some details here. So we have all of our video content here. What else do we want to do in our video detail? Yeah. Good, yeah. So like, we'll do a props.selectedvideo.description.
It was in snippets, right?
What's the thing? Oh yeah, I'm not console bar anymore. Thank you. Got lots of errors here, but where is going on? Oh, yeah. Cool, all right, so we'll take care of some of these errors in a little bit. All right, yeah, you're right. So it's snippet description. Got it. I probably want a title before that. What else do I want? Channel title, which is just the same level, so I can go with channel title. And maybe publish that. Here's this issue again.
Oh, we need to add all those keys to the
Yeah. We can go ahead and add these. There's another way.
that'd be awesome.
This is actually fine for a lot of things. But like, typically when you go to a website, you want to have a user see some kind of response initially. Even if you're loading data, you want the user to know, like, hey, we're getting your data, right? So we usually use a loading screen. Loading screens in React are actually pretty straightforward. Instead of doing this, I'm going to keep this as an empty thing. But what I'll say is, so initially what's going to happen is I'm going to pass this down. My video detail, initially it will be an empty string being passed down. What I can do, though, is something like if props.selectedVideo. And actually, I'm going to do, if there's no selected video, which should validate because empty strings are falsy. So if there's an empty string, I'm passing it down, it should say, well, there's no video. So what I should see is I'm hitting that debugger. And there it is. So if I don't have anything in my selected video, it's going to hit my debugger. What we can do is something like this. Where did my, I think I deleted all my image tags from my logo. But I can say, how am I going to do this?
I mean, it's just going to be image sources logo, right? If you wanted to do that. Well, no, you're going to put it in.
Yeah, we have to put this somewhere though. Yeah. Really, the main thing is like I don't want to return this content. I want to return one or the other. So this is a little sloppy, but this will work. Something like
And then like, yeah, on
put this in here. And it doesn't like line 27. I have too many things going on. So it's like, hey, if I don't have a video, return this logo. Otherwise, return the regular thing. Let's see if this works.
so we need to move line 5 in under.
Oh, good call. Yeah, it's still going to crash. Okay, almost. Still can't read it.
I'm not sure if snippet had a title in there.
Did it not? Oh. So I'm going to cut these out for 1 second and see if I can still load the page. Okay, interesting. Let me check my props. So selected video dot. Huh? Yeah. Snip title.
Did you just take out 13?
I think it's still going to crash, yeah. Can't find any of this yet.
Usually we're like, if snippet doesn't exist, don't do any of this.
That's what I was doing up here. Like, if there's nothing in the selected video.
Oh, what if selected video, the limit isn't guaranteed to have the snippet attributes.
Well, I think it does, in this case, we know that it does because we just pulled it.
Yeah. It's this structure. No, but this should be loading up by default. The once I actually should be set into the very first thing, and I have my data here. So this is all there.
Not
It's a
okay.
snippet of undefined. I'm sorry. Ah.
Oh, yeah.
So you see that? There's like a loading. So you can do all kinds of stuff with that. You can make little animations or like, hey, I'm loading while you get your data. It just, all that's happening is it's like, oh, I don't have my stuff, so show this. Oh, I have my stuff now. Okay, show this now. So this is a nice like quick way. You'll learn this week about routes and how you can reroute to like a loading screen, basically like through components. Be like, oh, show this page instead of this page, and it's a little cleaner. Does the same thing. All right. Questions?
Could you show us how to get like 10 videos instead of 5?
No. I think it's actually the API. I don't.
It's patching.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, okay. Yeah, sure. Let me take a look. So I'm gonna just do something like, I wanna see what my initial data is just for a second. Why is it not happy? Oh, because I don't have any curlies. I also want to clean up some of this stuff real quickly. Video search, so I got some logos in there in my video search and my video list. What else is here? These are actually different issues. Video detail. Unique title property, okay. That's interesting. So this needs to have a title property. Great. And children. Yeah. I could do this like an index. There is an issue with this. Has anyone talked about why it's not a great idea to do this? Because no, it's really that this index is just based on the map. It's just like, oh, these things are in a list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I could put this as a key index, but if I ever had, there's not guaranteed that arrays are always in the same order, and that you can actually, if you get different data, it can kind of interfere because the key is not tied to the actual object. So what I want to do instead is something like this. Something that I know is unique to that video that I already have an ID. So this will work. Yep, it works. These are, I'm not too worried about those. That's actually my computer more than anything else. All right, cool. So I'm loading my JSON data. I got my 5 items. I've got my page info and my next page token. So how do we get this? I'm gonna need to look up how to YouTube API paginate. So let's see if we can find something quickly here. Page token, cool. So let's choose the next 10 results in the query. So if I pull this down, or it looks like I can just capture this one thing. It's all the same as I already have. I'm actually calling that same structure. If I go back to my Google APIs, YouTube, v3, search, part snippet, and key, which is part snippet. I got my type, which is all there. So I need to do something like that. It's gonna be attached to that, but I don't have one initially, right? So it's kind of a little different because the initial fetch has to get my first page, which will also give me my page key. So what I could do is something like page token. Now I don't know, it might actually still work. that would be great if it still worked, if this works. Let's see if this works. It did work. Okay, cool. So if the page token is interpolated in as this dot, I'm sorry, I can hear you.
You can start blank.
Yeah, that's great. So that means I can actually still stick this in. So initially it'll be a blank string, but once I actually have a page token, I should be able to actually fetch more data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this. I'm going to log it down here so I can actually see what happened, what my URL is looking like. And what I'm going to do is take this out, put it directly into my console log. So now I should be able to see my whole thing, including my new page token, on the re-render. Oh, it does not like search term. Oh yeah, because this. Yeah, I'm going to just take this out and change it to search term and this.state.search term. Cool, so check it out. So I have my first URL, there's my key, there's my snippet, and my search term is dolphin to begin with. It's again dolphin here. It's not showing me my page token. Oh, yeah, I haven't stored it. Right. So page token, and my token looks something like, what does it look like? JSON dot, I'm going to have to put this console log back in again. What did I do? Oh. No. Page info, next page token. Cool. All right, now I refresh this page. I should see, there it is, my next page token. Cool. So I have my new URL. What do you think the best way to do this would be? You could do it a couple of different ways. I wouldn't want to put it, like, I could actually put like some kind of function in here. Like once I receive this data back, send it a second fetch request. We have to protect it from looping forever, but yeah.
But to go back to the documentation on the URI.
Yeah.
Like, on the URI itself, it has a go down where it says and
Sorry.
It says and match results equals 10.
Oh, interesting.
Well, so I was not trying to see this solution.
Oh, I see.
I want to see how to solve the problem we were just talking
Oh, okay, like programmatically get more and more and more.
Get a second page.
Yeah.
Not necessarily 10.
So I think the best initial way to approach this would be something like, we don't want to have this fire automatically until we know how we're going to make it work. What we want to do is get an initial fetch request, and then maybe have a button on the page, and just to start. Like when we click the button, we get more videos, and we should just append it to the videos we already have. So that should be fine. We can do something like get more videos, and we'll probably see that this is actually very repetitive. We'll see it very similar. It's going to be almost exactly the same as this. So we're going to have to we'll see some opportunities for abstraction, but this should be able to work. There is one thing, which is that we don't want to reset all of this data. So what do we want to use instead? We already have videos at this point if we're hitting a second search. Yes, how do we do that? How do we incorporate that in now? What do we need to do? Put right here. Yeah. Previous state, we need to make the functional component of this. And it's going to return an object, which is this. But we're going to modify this. So now for videos, we want to actually say previous state.videos. and then add in the JSON items. Yes, I do. Yeah. So what's going to happen if I do this? What's going to happen? Yeah, it'll just stick a whole array into my array, which is not going to work for us. So I want to actually do spread operate on both sides of this. This can be the same. That's fine. It's actually going to change it to the next first result of the next search, next button. So that'll be fine for now. Actually, no, it won't. It'll still work. It'll still be exactly the same. This should give us our next token.
No, it will set it to the first and the next one because you're doing JSON.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So you do previous state.
Yep.
Or you could just get rid of it and it wouldn't change anything.
Because you don't need it.
Just get rid of that line.
Oh yeah, you're right. We don't need to reset my selected video.
You wouldn't want it to happen anyway.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, yeah. All right, cool. So I have this function very similar. Comma? Oh, thank you. Okay. See if it's crashing. No, it's not crashing.
We just need a button.
Yeah. We can stick that. Let's stick that right up here somewhere, right below search. And on click this dot, what do I call it? Oh, yeah, get more videos. Yes, it probably will. So actually, I want to do something like this. By wrapping it in a div, this grid is only applying to the children it has. So now it'll apply to this div, and that'll be fine. Cool. So now I have super smart dolphin answer questions in my last video. If I search again, nothing changes up here, but there's more. There's Broncos versus Dolphins, and Raiders versus Dolphins, and Jets versus Dolphins. Eagles, okay.
So the way to, sorry, this is off topic, but the way to change what you're kind of like default doing, you can do two events on it, right? Like if you hit a certain key, you just enter, or if you click search. Like how do you say like if someone just does equals enter, like that's an event listener that has a key that it's listening for, right?
Yeah, actually, so yeah, right now if I press enter, this is not
Right.
working. Right. It's because I use the button. So I need to either tie it into an on-click on the input, like on key down on the input actually.
So it'd be like key down and then whatever number the
Right, yeah, whatever the character for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if the key code is equal to the key code of enter, then fire it up. I think the better way is just to make a form because you can actually just leverage the built-in functionality of our form and do something like on submit. This.props.handle submit. Get rid of this.
And so that can handle like clicking the button or enter.
Yeah, actually it would. Yeah. It will work for both. I have to then add in the one thing, which is that I need to stop the default action, which is to refresh the page. Event default. Oh yeah, so I need to add in a input type submit. Cool. So now if I look for Eagles, now it's working.
That's
Yeah.
kind of
No, that's a good thing to talk about. Yeah. So this button set functionality, like you can, it's just going to load as many times as I hit it. Let's just make sure if that's true. Yeah. You can see how like you might be able to incorporate this into a lazy loader system, where like what you do is you read if your user is towards the bottom of the screen, fire that function to get more, and that's how like you have like Instagram works because as you get down the screen, it says, oh, you're 200 pixels away from the bottom. Get more pictures. Yeah, that's why it looks infinite. Yes.
With, just with back page tokens,
Yeah. It's really just because, and you might want to do this in like if people build their own API, you don't want to send like oh no. You can imagine YouTube gets hit by like thousands of user requests per second. I mean, at this point, it's probably millions. So in order to limit the amount of data they're actually sending out, and by paginating it, it allows them to say like, to give you a chunk, and then the person actually building the API, the functionality, the client side, can then build out some kind of way to loop through that. It's just a way to sort of recognize like the API sent this data. It gives you this generated token as a way that on their side they know what that token is, and if you send it back to them, they know, okay, you want 5 more from this previous search. There are certain APIs you'll see. I think actually Google Places, for instance, where if you send a request for API in Google Places, it'll tell you like, here's the top 20 things in your location. If you send back just the token, it will have stored your previous search, and it knows this client has requested this many pages, so I'm going to give them page 3.
Right. That's how they know 85, 6, 3.
Yeah, exactly. It's on their side that they're storing. They're making just like a small key to store, like this is pointing to 5 more. Yeah.
Yeah, so just from, I guess, from an abstraction standpoint, just wanted to understand, like, I know that you put, like, obviously the fetch requests in the component, but I'm just curious, like, if you were to have, well, we have multiple fetch requests now, but if you were to have multiple ones, like, would you then switch it over to an adapter file, or an adapter class?
Yeah.
And, like, kind of call to that file, and how would that look like?
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, at this point, whenever I'm building a project, I always use an adapter class. Does everyone know what an adapter is and how? Okay, cool. So I'll build it out real quickly. I'll make a new file. I'm actually going to make a new folder called adapters. I only have one type of, I'm going to do just fetches in here. So I'm going to call it index.js. The reason why is now I have this file in here. If I want to import this in, it's actually just going to be a matter of saying import, let's say like a fetch adapter, we'll make it a class, from adapters. Even though the file is /index, it actually will look for index by default. If it's in a folder, it'll just say, okay, index is in here, I found it. So now I have to build out something that's called fetch adapter here. So let's see, it's going to be something like export const fetch adapter. There's a couple ways you could do this. You can write out different fetch requests. I kind of like making a class. So actually it's going to be class. Class import React from React extends React component. Oh, I'm sorry. This is not even a React class. There's no need for that. I apologize. Yes. I think that will work. So what's missing there? Just like that? Yeah. Thank you. So right now I only have one fetch, and this is going to be, actually I have 2 fetches. Well, no, it's actually 1. I'm going to take this out. Static search fetch, I'll call it, which will be a function that returns fetch. Return, thank you. So actually, I'm going to have a fetch request in here that's being returned. I'll go ahead and do one more thing, which is, yes, I am. Thank you. What else am I missing? No, that's fine. I do, so I'm going to have to pass that in. So I'll show you how that works. I want a response, just convert that to JSON. I don't really know what I want to do with this data yet, so I'm not going to add another then. All I want to do is convert it from my response to a JSON data and return that data so I can manipulate it on my actual app. But in here, in this case, I'm going to have to do something like I really just not like the fact that I'm cutting this up a little bit, but interesting. We'll take in like 2 arguments. Key, 3 arguments actually. Search term and page token. So if I take in 3 arguments here, I can then replace this with key. I can replace this with search term, and I can replace this with page token. I'm not entirely sure why my
Thinks that the 2 forward slashes are making it.
yeah. How,
I think it fixes JSX.
I think you're right. I'm curious if I do this. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, cool. Yeah, you can interpret it as JSX. JSX is an extension for this. It just lets you read it better. But oh boy, what did I do? What did I do? JSX. Nope, that's also not it. This is the one. Okay, fine. Cool. So it takes in the 3 arguments. Now, in my video app container, instead of calling this section, I should be able to just say, now that I've imported the fetch adapter in, fetch adapter dot search fetch, I think that's what I called it, search fetch, and pass in this dot state dot, or actually, sorry, keys dot API key. What are my other ones? Search term, this dot state dot search term, and this dot state dot page token. So on here, I'm saying when this static function is called, it's a class method of fetch adapter. Take on these 3 arguments, return the value of this fetch that's after the then. So it actually returns whatever is returned here. It should actually get back their promise and convert their promise here into that JSON. So when it returns, it'll be an object I can use, JSON object. Yeah. So if this is working, I should be able to, since it's actually returning, you're right, it is returning the promise. So I can then, since I'm returning a dot then, I can actually tie another then onto it directly here on my other page. And if this is working,
That's where you can like
modify the data and do my thing. Yeah, exactly. Let's say let's export default here. Cool. So it's actually working. So what's happening is it's hitting my fetch adapter. It's hitting my video search first thing and saying, okay, go on my fetch adapter, passing these values, sends the fetch request, comes back as a promise, and I can then interpret it this way. So then I can also do something like this. I can go ahead and take this and replace this as well. And this will still work. It should still work. Get more videos. Yep, cool. Yes?
Could we just take out the default search term, so just load like the page loads, like you
Oh.
would have a default?
Ed Sheeran.
It's default.
Yeah, well, I put empty string, and I guess, I imagine it's probably sending us like very most recent popular stuff. Yeah. So Ed Sheeran, Marvel Avengers trailer. Yeah, that makes sense. Lo-fi hip hop. So, yeah, that's how you set up a fetch adapter. The benefit of an adapter is something like this. You can actually, I only have one function here, but if I had, say, a whole CRUD structure in my app where I wanted to write and read and update, it allows you to do stuff like this. So we can actually make a const, like const API URL is equal to this first part. And then just interpret that in API URL. So this should still work. And that means like if I ever had to change my local host, if I was hitting my own API, or if I needed to change some data, I can quickly do it this way. It also allows to do some stuff like I can actually show you. Okay, cool. We'll end on 2 minutes. I want to show you really quickly an example of a fully structured fetch adapter. Projects. What's a good one? This one should have my adapter in it. Cool, it does. So this is an example of like a full detailed adapter. This is one I built for my final project. It exports a class auth adapter for my authorization for locking in current users and stuff like that. It also has stuff like this, like headers. So now I don't have to write my headers every time. I can just point to a function that returns my value of headers. And you can go even deeper and say like, you'll learn this pretty soon, actually this week, JOT tokening and authorization. Like if I have a user already logged in, I have some data on my client, I can send that data back and get my login information without having to re-log in every time I refresh the page. So this is the kind of thing that works for. So yeah, you can really extract a bunch of this stuff out. Anytime like you have this sort of thing repeating, you can be dry and take it out and extract it into a function. But we can go over that in more detail later this week as well. Any questions about this before we end? About the YouTube app?
You show call me
Oh.
again. No,
Oh, sure. Cool, and that's it. Thank you.